Welcome to the kitchen, back to where it all began, doing extract batches on this kettle 20 some years ago. It's the middle of September and already it's getting much cooler outside, 20 to 25 degrees cooler than it was just a few weeks ago. So I dug out my old 5-gallon kettle. I bought a bag, a brew in a bag, and I'm going to do a small batch, 2 1/4, 2.5 gallon batch on the stovetop because when it gets cold outside in a few months, I won't be able to brew outside using the garden hose for water. It'll be all froze up. So the first thing I need is a recipe, and I'm going to use a recipe I heard on a podcast from brewlosophy.com. It's a Vienna lager. The recipe comes from brewlosophy.com. I heard this listening to their radio podcast recently. It's the short and shoddy Vienna lager. But I'm not going to do it the short and shoddy way. I'm just going to do it the small batch way. Now Marshall made a 5-gallon batch and I'm doing 2.5. Fortunately, he gives his recipes in percentages of grain. And this one's really simple. 99% Vienna malt. And he used Mecca grade. I'm just going to select a generic malt. And then the rest is just 1% pale chocolate malt. So let's go over to Beersmith. I've got templates for all of my equipment profiles. I'm going to select the stovetop 2-gallon equipment profile, and I'm going to make a copy of that and then paste it. That way I won't risk messing up my original template. Let's give it a name, 2-gallon Vienna lager. And right here, in case you're wondering, are some items that are common to all of my recipes, so I just included them in the template. Let's go over to add fermentable. And I'm just going to select a generic Vienna malt. Let's pick a number. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to adjust this later. Now add fermentable without closing. That'll let me add another one. And that's pale chocolate malt. Again, the generic variety. And let's just do 1/2 pound. Now select OK. And you see I'm not bad. I'm 88, almost 89% of the Vienna malt and 11% of the pale chocolate. I can adjust that right here on the grain percent tool. 99. 1. And that looks better. Now I want to make sure that I'm within the original gravity range. 1054 was what Marshall had in his recipe, and you can see I'm a little shy on that. I can adjust that either by clicking adjust gravity up here or by just clicking on the slider right there. And I just type in the original gravity I wish to have, and it adjusts my malt weights to get me to where I want to be. One more thing while I'm thinking about it, let's change the style to Vienna lager. And now our grain bill is set right where I want it. So with our grain bill all set, let's select some hops. Let's go back to the recipe. And I've got Tettnang and Magnum as first wort hops. And Tettnang in the boil at 10 minutes, my late addition hops. And I'm looking for an IBU of 24. So we'll add some hops. Let's do the Magnum first. Let's select first wort. And we'll do that much. Add hop without closing. We'll do Tettnang. Still on first wort, and let's up that up to 1/4 ounce. Add hop without closing. Stay with Tettnang, but let's change this to boil. And 10 minutes. Keep it at 0.25 of an ounce, 1/4 of an ounce. All right, let's see what we have. 1/4 of an ounce of Tet at 60. First wort, actually. 0.10 Magnum. First wort at 60. And Tettnang, 1/4 ounce at 10 minutes. Let's check our, oh wow. Hit that right on the head. 24.4 IBUs, so I'm exactly where I want to be. No adjustment necessary. If you needed to adjust, again, you could just click on the slider and type in the hops that you want. So I've got my fermentables, I've got my hops. I don't have to add any miscellaneous. I do need to add yeast, however, so let's go back to the recipe. Scroll down a little bit, and Marshall used liquid yeast, Harvest L17. But since this is just a 2.5 gallon batch, I'm going to select a dry yeast. I'm looking for a dry lager, and this is one that I think will work. Saf Lager W-3470. All right. I don't know what the date of the package is going to be that I am going to get, but we'll check that box. Okay. This is looking good. I like this recipe as is. We didn't have to do a whole lot of adjustment. It was fairly simple. So let's click OK and save that. Now let's go brew it. All right, with such a small grain bill, milling isn't going to take long at all. Pounds of Vienna malt, and that smells wonderful, and 2 ounces of pale chocolate. That's it. Done milling the grains. And I milled them right in my brew in a bag. So let's go back to the kitchen. So with my grains milled and my water on the stove heating to strike temperature, I'm using drinking water in a 3-gallon jug that I bought at the home store, Lowe's in particular, and it's full of iodophor sanitizer right now. But I'm going to use this as my fermenting vessel when I'm done. Got a bung that fits, and it's recycling. Okay, once the target temperature on my strike water was reached, I put the bag in the kettle, and now we begin mashing. I need to check my temperature first to make sure that I've hit my mash temp. All right, got this good and stirred up. I'm looking for a mash temp of 154, and I have 154.7. So that's a result. Just squeezing the last of the wort out of the bag. Set that aside. And the colander as well. The beauty of the brew in a bag system is that your mash tun now becomes your boil kettle. And I've got some first wort hops to prepare, Hallertau and Tettnang. I'll measure those out and put them in now while the water is heating up. All right, I'm going to use a hop bag. And I've got 1/4 ounce of Tettnang and 0.10 ounces of Hallertau. And I'll put this in right now. And while I'm thinking about it, I might want to grab my Firm Cap S and dose this up so we don't get a big boil over. So let me run and do that right now. All right, 2 drops per gallon. I've got about 3 gallons, maybe a little less. You can already see the proteins bubbling up. And since I'm doing this in the house, it's not a bad idea. All right, so my wort has come to a boil. I've started my brew day timer. And a little while ago I took a sample for a gravity reading. My target is 1037. This is 10.6 or 8 bricks. And that converts to about 1041. So I'm a little bit over my target. I'm just going to leave it here for now and see how it turns out towards the end. Alright, done boiling. What I'm going to do is cool this the old school way in the kitchen sink with some ice. All of a sudden I remember why I never chill in an ice bath anymore. It takes a long time. I considered buying a little immersion chiller, but I wanted to keep the cost down, at least on this first brew. And I'm just going to dump it in here. All I've purchased so far is the brew in a bag. But I really think that an immersion chiller is going to be a worthy expense. I'm going to leave some of this tube behind. Looks like my temperature is still in the mid-80s, so I'll let this cool down before I pitch the yeast. But for all intents and purposes, this little small batch on the kitchen stove is done. And take 2. Don't want to hear the mousetrap.